Testing, testing. Good morning, everybody. If everybody could start to find your seats, we're going to get started soon. Also, just want to make those announcements one more time. If you don't mind, please silence your cell phones so we can avoid any disturbances during the press conference. You don't want to be that person that has the phone ringing. And then towards the end, if the governor does take questions, that part is for the media only, so no standing up and shouting out any questions or raising hands. If you guys can give me a thumbs up one more time if you can hear me. Testing, test, 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 testing, testing. Are you good there on the end? Testing, test, test, testing. Okay, perfect. Thank you. We'll get started in just a little bit.
Oh, wait. I have no service here. I have nothing.
Yeah, that's the problem.
It's just like.
I cannot do it. Doesn't let me. When we were down here, he's from the market. That's not long we go back. And his brother worked with my brother. He's a contractor. That's not long we go. When nobody was presentation of Marco Rubio, he was speaking in my bedroom on stage. Did you see him on stage? Oh my God, I missed it, right? We actually stopped our lives for and with her. But it's not just me too. And Howard. Yeah, me too. Yeah. My walls. And he said something that I use all the time. He said, with Carter, talk about the God, and he said that, the important part about this God you cannot figure it in the sweetness I think it was power. It was the day that I was sitting right up front.
The first day, right? It was the first day Monday. No, it was when they were.
I had to go walk around trying to make sure that everybody was trying to
would not recognize the person.
Did you switch to an iPhone?
I got both.
Oh.
No, there's the city.
Not so bad. Yeah. Still got a while. I looked at it, so the lavender on the lake that we talked about is really pretty. But I'm going in daily on spring sport at the white garden. Have you ever heard of it? It's so pretty.
When I was telling my baby to press that one, she goes, this is familiar.
It's such a beautiful flower. It's
So my children have to do it.
or do the family compound. It's so nice.
This is actually way up the hill.
The wedding venue that I got there, it's pretty new. The Whitewood Ranch. It doesn't look like a ranch. It's actually like an 80-acre tree farm. So it's so pretty. And it's just a young couple that owns it. They just had a baby. And they are the sweetest couple ever. I just see try everything. It's actually funny. My fiance, he works for Cemex. They're digging concrete here. Yeah. I booked his venue, and then they told us that they were doing the stairway space that they're still building out. And he's the one that got the project to pour the concrete. He's like, how many people can say they poured the concrete?
Nectarine trees, so pretty. Big
May, but it's going to be inside.
Just getting, and it was just getting low. We were okay. So I did it.
Have an extra.
Have an extra day and have people
Right. It turned extravagant.
Our ranch, second dog,
And the people that you actually want to go most likely will make friends so you have That's really cool.
really? She has values. When we came in, we bought a house today, that was smart. Right down. Yeah. Everybody's smart. Yeah. The format.
Exactly. My CEO has never,
That bathroom. Did you ever see the bathroom?
Not everything.
I know, I tried on it. I am everything.
But I was really scared to see his house was buried and swinging all the way around to see it. And I was like, forecast right now, we cannot just going to take the seat and keep your eye out. And there's another and you got it out. Every tool. He did my house. Yeah, I did. One of these.
No, I'm wrong.
Okay.
I work for Great You can call me and I see you actually every event. I see you at every single event. I select you. We sat next to each other I'm really good friends with Brandon. So that's how it started. He was coming to events that our clients were hosting, and then I got contacted with him. And I was, this is like a year and a half ago, and I would never he was like, that's so funny. I'll start inviting you to those events. And I was like, okay, great. And it was hard to come out to the nights, like, he represents
actually gave away at the dinner. It's on the TikTok. So you got a donor. Yeah. We'll see how that goes. He was really rich, not to make you are. We have my mom brings back about 35.
I cannot stand you.
I was part of that letter.
So I worked, he was the handler.
It's just like, yeah, probably the delivery.
Yeah, the delivery. Yeah, exactly. There's a school that teaches you these habits.
He looks it.
Oh, he's county commissioner. I think he's superintendent. I know, in our county, but it's got population. Lake County is on that. The salaries are all set.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, they keep trying to get on soccer. I actually live in Kissimmee, but we're about to buy a property in Whitesville.
Hey, David, how are you?
This is next time.
Good morning. Good morning. Thanks so much. Oh, please be seated. Good to see you guys. Great to be back in Osceola County. We got a great announcement today. You know, they were like, we're going to Voyager K-8. And I was like, what is that? Because, like, you know, I know the schools. I've been around to so many in this, and they're like, it just opened last year. I was like, okay, there, you know, but they opened just last year and already are performing, number 3 in the state and year 1 as a school. And their the enrollment increase. And I know they're continuing to do well here, so we really thank them for hosting us. And you know, sometimes it's hard to keep up with the Joneses with this school or in this school. It's like really significant, particularly in this part of the state. We're joined today by our Attorney General James Uthmeyer, Florida Education Commissioner Stasi Kamoutsis. I warned the superintendent, you know, everyone be on your best behaviors. If you're not, you get a nasty gram from Stasi. He'll send that out very quickly. We do have our superintendent for Osceola County School District, Dr. Mark Shanoff, and I want to thank him for not just being here today, but being really a great partner on a lot of important things for our students over the years. So thank you for doing that. Jason Broder from the Florida Senate is here, Central Florida. And then we have Representatives Smith, Cobb, and Stark from the Florida House of Representatives. I want to thank them for being here. Before I get into today's announcement, I just want to make some comments. I have been out and about asked, but you know, we had a situation where you had an illegal alien driving one of these massive semi-trucks in Florida, was not a license in Florida, had a California driver's license, of course, and going down the lane, and I think we've all who've driven in Florida, there'll be breaks in these highways where it'll be for official use only, and that's really for the highway patrol and law enforcement to be able to get around and do what they needed to do. Well, this guy thought that he should just try to turn a semi-truck around in that, and of course that doesn't happen on a dime, so you had a car coming, run into it, and it ended up killing 3 people, all from Florida. And that should have never happened. He should have never been here. He certainly shouldn't have gotten a commercial driver's license from California. And, it's disturbing, too, because if you look, we have video of this. We have photos of this. And he seemed to not like, it was almost like, he was walking down the sidewalk, maybe stubbed his toe, just kind of like, it was like it didn't register to him, what had happened. And I'm like, that is really, really cold. But it raises these issues of, in Florida, what we've said is, we're not giving licenses if you're here illegally. We're not giving ID cards. In fact, you can't even do like these NGOs want to issue. We don't allow that. We don't recognize California driver's licenses. And so we're creating a situation where following the law is the right thing to do and violating the law is the wrong thing to do. Now, California, they do it differently. They invite people to come illegally. They provide benefits. They provide a lot of different things. Honestly, some of them get treated better than blue-collar Americans out there with their policies. So that ends up attracting. It creates more of this, and it's frustrating because here we are in Florida. We are doing the right thing. In the legislature, I've got Jay Broder and these guys have helped us craft these policies. Blaise Ngoli is now the chief financial officer, instrumental working on some of this stuff over the years. We've worked really hard on it, and then to have like a California send this guy in and create havoc for our state, that's just fundamentally wrong. But what it shows is it can't just be like we do things right in Florida and somehow that's going to cure what's happening on the left coast and some of these other places. Ultimately, Congress has the power of the purse. They do not need to fund you if you're a sanctuary state. They can remove funding from sanctuary cities. So stop subsidizing this. You have people that are in Congress that are complaining about what happened, and while I appreciate the sympathy, it's like you guys have the power of the purse. You can discipline these states that don't follow the law and incentivize law breaking. You could do that very quickly. You also can address another problem with this situation. This guy comes in from India illegally across the U.S.-Mexico border, and he claims asylum. Now, think about that. It'd be one thing if, when people, would come from Cuba and they claim asylum, because this was the first place they could get to, right? And you've had situations where this has happened. You're coming from India. How many other countries are you going through? And then you show up in the southern border and say asylum? Why didn't you get asylum somewhere else? So they're abusing the process and the statutes that we have in the United States of America, and they're trained to do this. So you have massive numbers of people that have claimed it, millions and millions have claimed it, just leaving country in Central America. They're not truly seeking, they're just basically economic migrants, however you're doing it. And so you have this incentive. So he was basically given some type of preliminary determination. They say, okay, you'll have a hearing in 2 or 3 years, and then it gets pushed, and then it gets pushed, and all this stuff. And it's basically a one-way ratchet. You can come in pretty much unfettered. Well, in the past you could illegally. And then if there's any type of law enforcement, it's like this massive bureaucratic maze that you have to go through. And so Congress can address that too. Congress can address the abuse that we're seeing in this asylum process, because I'd say 95% of the people that are claiming it just factually do not even come close to meeting what should be. But they do. They say the magic words. They get an initial determination. They get a court date, and you do. And that was something that happened with this guy that came in illegally from India. So to have 3 people killed, so senseless. So absolutely enraging to see this happening, knowing that none of this, that all this could have been prevented. But Florida, we've been leading on this. We're doing a whole bunch of stuff, I think, as a lot of people know, because we believe it's important, that we have law and order prevail across the spectrum. But Congress, they go on TV and they'll complain about stuff. You have power of the purse. You have power to legislate. You can fix these problems. You really can fix these problems. and I would just love to see some action out of the folks in Washington, D.C. Now, we're here today to talk about Florida getting more accountability with respect to, in this instance, supporting our school districts throughout the state of Florida who are trying to do the right thing. Now, I am always reminding people that Florida has been ranked #1 economy in the U.S. 3 years in a row by CNBC. We've been ranked #1 overall for education. Some years we're in the top 2 or 3, 4, 5, but we're always near the top in those. We're #1 higher education, 9 straight years. #1 in education freedom, #1 for parental involvement in education, and on it goes. And we've done successful reforms like the progress monitoring, like a lot of the students and parents and teachers got frustrated. I mean, most people acknowledge you got to have measurements. You got to know whether our kids are actually learning things, how schools are performing. So there's got to be some type of way to evaluate that. When you had a 1-year high-stakes end-of-year test, first of all, they cram for the test. What I found as a student, when you cram for a test, then you end up forgetting it once you take the test. Like if you just methodically learn, then it stays with you a little bit longer. So it created this impetus to do this end-of-year test. But then what happens is if a student was deficient in that somehow, well, they're on summer vacation. So how are you going to remedy that? Well, progress monitoring, periodic assessments throughout the year, the teacher, the student, the parent, they can get together and remedy when students aren't doing it. And what we found is steady progress for our students throughout the school year, and the metrics have been really, really strong. So we're proud of that. We're also proud of championing things that shouldn't really need to be a champion. It should just be something that everyone wants to do, but it's kind of fallen out of favor. Our emphasis on promoting American civics. And we've been doing that for years. I think it's very important leading into next year, which is going to be the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence, and making sure our students, there's so much stuff that goes on post-secondary. We obviously have our university system we're proud of, but I think we all know, there are universities throughout this country that are printing degrees that are not worth the paper it's printed on, and students are going into debt for that. That's why we've promoted apprenticeships, trade schools, all these other things that are going to be there. And there's going to be a wide variety of ways that different students go once they leave our K-12 system, but all of them will be called upon to exercise the duty of American citizenship, and they need a foundation so that they can make sense of what's going on around them and be active citizens and have a good understanding of what the foundations of the country represent. So we have the civics and debate, the debate initiative, which is really blown up. It's been really, really fantastic. We also have the course that the instructors can go through. They get a $3,000 bonus, and they're really learning things that are really meaningful and are very timeless. So I'm proud of that. We are also looking at, and this is going to be something that is not going to be an issue that's going to go away, is how are we preparing students for the world as it's developing? If we were here 10 years ago, 15 years ago, everyone would say, well, people need to code and do this and do that, and many did. And many have done okay. I would say vocational education 10, 15 years ago in a lot of places was frowned upon. They said you're not going to be able to do as well. You got to go to a traditional 4-year college. And I think what we're finding now with the rise of artificial intelligence is some of those things, particularly on the lower level with computer coding, some of those are just going to be rendered obsolete because it's going to be done by AI. Some of these white-collar jobs where people told you go to college and do that, those could end up being obsolete. A lot of the trade stuff I think is going to be more valuable than ever to have those skills. So we're entering a period of, I think, major flux of how the economy works. And look, I've been very clear. My role as governor is to protect the well-being of the people of this state. It's not to allow computers to supplant the well-being of the people of this state. Artificial intelligence, some people are developing, it has a role, but it can't substitute for our responsibility to think for ourselves as human beings, and it's never going to be able to get to the point where it can reason as well as a human being. I know people try to say it will. I don't think, first of all, I see a lot of errors with artificial intelligence on some of this stuff, but it is going to be something that's going to be a more and more significant part of our economy going forward. So how are we going to respond? I think we got to be very nimble in how we respond, both at the primary and secondary, but also post-secondary, because I think some of the folks have been put into certain pipelines over the years, and I think some of those pipelines, may end up being shut off by artificial intelligence overwhelming some of this stuff. So it's a fundamental issue for our time. We want to address it in ways that really protect the people of this state's ability to work hard and make the most of their own lives. I don't want to see this overtake reason, and I certainly don't want to see it impinging on people's freedom. We have the ability as policymakers to add protections where we need. They were trying in Washington to say states couldn't do anything on artificial intelligence. I mean, we just did with the legislature, we did a bill a few months ago where they were taking the likeness of this high school girl and putting her into pornographic videos. And it's like, shouldn't there be? I mean, there should be some recourse to that. Very traumatic experience. I think that's appropriate that we provided protections there. And there were folks in Washington that didn't want us to be able to do anything with it. So it's going to continue to be an important issue. And just please know we're thinking very, very deeply about how we can kind of protect people and make sure people are able to make the most of their own lives with this. But it is going to cause disruption. Now, we have done a lot with supporting the rights of parents. We've done a lot with, just having schools open when many places were not having them open back during the COVID-19 pandemic. We've also worked hard on expanding educational choice, both within school districts, within our charter system, and even with private scholarships. And parents, I don't think there's any state in the country where you're more empowered to make great education choices for your kids as you are in the free state of Florida. We're proud of that. We're happy to do that. But we've also had to take on other battles. So we're here today to talk about something that we're doing with respect to these textbook publishers. And I'll say a little bit about what we're doing with respect, but just in a minute. But we have had to deal with these textbooks because, they'll submit the books to Department of Education. And it's like, our view is education, not indoctrination, right? We're not going to approve a textbook if you're trying to leverage that book to promote your political agenda. It ain't going to happen. And so, some books like math books, honestly, there are objections there, not as many. Social studies, it's like batten down the hatches. Like the stuff they try to cram in there, Colin Kaepernick, the rioting from 2020, partisanship, this, that, all these other things. And it's very easy for Florida, because we're such a big state. No, we're not doing that. No, we're not doing that. We want straightforward education. So we've gone back and forth with a lot of these publishers over the years. A lot of this is behind the scenes, where we're objecting to their attempt to impose a narrative or to try to impose an agenda, and have insisted on having straightforward instruction in these materials. We're a big enough state, and when we do that, they have to play ball with us because the orders are significant. So I think not only have we helped schools in Florida steer clear of that, but by us doing that, that has a spillover effect with a lot of smaller states. So it's been really, really important to do that. But I'll tell you, and I'm not in there parsing all this, but I will get briefed occasionally from our folks at education, and they will show me some of this stuff, and I'm just like, you've got to be kidding me. Like, how do you think that that's possibly appropriate? And when they put it into like the math and science, they don't do it as much, but when they do it, it's sometimes even more egregious that they're trying to smuggle it in for some of that stuff. So we've had to do that. Today, though, we're holding them accountable for a different reason. Today we're announcing that we're taking action against 2 major textbook publishers that have been exploiting our school districts at the expense of our taxpayers and at the expense of our students. Through a whistleblower complaint filed with the Attorney General's office, the state of Florida has learned that some of our school districts were being overcharged by millions of dollars for these instructional materials. Florida Attorney General James Uthmeyer took immediate action, and he has led the state filing a lawsuit against McGraw-Hill and Savvis Learning for violating state law and taking away valuable resources from Florida schools. When textbook publishers apply to be placed in the state's adopted textbook list, they agree in writing to automatically reduce the price of instructional materials to the district school board to match reductions that have been made in other places throughout the United States of America. And that was not being done by these 2 textbook companies. The complaint filed by the Attorney General states that there have been at least 5,900 instances of overcharges by these textbook publishers. One example, right here in Osceola County School District, overcharge of more than $279,000. Now, with treble damages available, not including civil penalties or the attorney's fees and court costs, that amounts to Savvis Learning having a potential liability of more than $837,000 in damages for just one textbook sold to one school district in just 1 year. Another example is one book title that was sold at a discount to Miami-Dade Public Schools, but sold at higher prices in 9 other Florida school districts. The aggregate overcharge totals more than $250,000. So this is a clear indication that Florida law was not being followed by either McGraw-Hill or Savvis Learning. The civil penalties for this alleged textbook fraud could amount to between $37.5 million and $60.5 million between the 2 publishers. And so this is something that's significant. It's something that those resources should be going to the school districts, to the teachers, and doing ways that are going to be productive, not to pad the profits of textbook companies who are not following the letter of the law. So I want to thank the Attorney General for being on this and filing suit very quickly. We are not going to let go of this, so we're going to continue to stand up and do what's right for our students.
Companies trying to make a profit at the expense of students and our taxpayers. And in our Office of Attorney General, we're not going to let them get away with it. We're going to hold them accountable. We're going to go after civil penalties and treble damages and recoup money to help our students and to give it back to our taxpayers. These 2 companies, McGraw-Hill and Savvis, they got discounts as they cut deals in other places, and they saved money. Unfortunately for them, Florida law requires the lowest price to be given to our school systems. They did not do that, so we have sued them, and we will hold them accountable. You know, at the end of the day, everything has to be about our students. Our office opened up the first Office of Parental Rights in the country. We're talking to other states to hopefully help them follow suit. And through a portal that we created, we've received complaints. Complaints where parents believe their parental rights are being violated. Florida was the first state in the country to pass into law broad parental rights protections, and we're going to enforce them. We've received complaints where, you know, parents are aware of harmful sexual pornographic content in schools. We fought back, and everywhere where we have brought that fight, we have succeeded in getting that harmful material out of the classrooms. We've received complaints about so-called treatments, counseling, medical provisions being given to students without parental knowledge. This is wrong. We're not going to tolerate it, and we're going to stand in the way. you know, it's frustrated me as I travel the state. I hear public school system administrators and some of the union bosses complaining about their declining school numbers. But at the end of the day, these are the same individuals that want to push these harmful ideologies in the schools. And families are moving with their feet. They're taking advantage of vouchers. They're choosing charter schools. They're choosing private options with a focus on good education. They do not want the sexualized ideology. They want math. They want science. They want the basic skills. They're going to help raise their kids to be successful and good citizens. So to the public school systems, I say, you know, I hope we can save you. I really do. But it will be because you choose education. You choose students over woke ideology. So we will continue to fight the good fight. We will go after anybody that doesn't want to put students first, because at the end of the day, students are the goal. I mean, the governor's led record funding for teachers, and that's great. We want good teachers, but again, it all goes back to the student. We want good teachers, the best teachers, to provide the best education for the students. So to textbook companies, we're going to be watching. Our office will be working with Commissioner Kamoutsas to make sure all contractors and companies are doing the best they can to help Florida students. Thank you.
Well, good morning, everyone. It's great to be here with Governor DeSantis, Attorney General Othmeyer, Superintendent Chanoff. Thank you for hosting us. As Florida's Commissioner of Education, I have a responsibility to deliver a world-class education system for our students. Thanks to Governor DeSantis' leadership, Florida's families have access to the best educational options in the country. Over 500,000 students are benefiting from our scholarship programs thanks to this governor. And 1.4 million students, which is nearly half our entire student population in this state, is benefiting from school choice. Whether it's a private option, whether it's a charter option. There are options out there for families, homeschooling options, and they are benefiting. As Attorney General Othmeyer indicated, they are moving with their feet. The expansion of school choice and the increased partnership of parents working with teachers has led to increased results for students in our state. We talked about progress monitoring, where last year 64% of our schools were in A or B compared to this year at 71%. That is a significant increase. And we talk about, yeah, you can clap for that. And when we talk about our DNF schools, last year we had 117 DNF schools in this state, compared to this year where we are now at 71 schools. Again, significant learning gains for our students. Now let's look at the student data when we talk about English language arts and mathematics. Talk about the basics in education of why students go to school. It's to learn these subject areas. Well, when progress monitoring was created in 22-23, we had 115,000 students less on grade level compared to where we're at today, which is significant. And in mathematics, it's nearly 100,000 students. So that's hundreds of thousands of students that have benefited since the inception of progress monitoring because of this governor's bold leadership. Now, in order to build on this partnership between parents and teachers and continue to provide a world-class education system, I'm committed to holding publishers accountable, whether it's in content or cost. And I'm glad that the Attorney General and the Governor share the sentiment. In Florida, we've set a high bar for the instructional materials that students use. We expect every publisher who wants to do business here to meet that bar. Now, the Governor mentioned some of the examples, and it is in fact egregious. Things like critical race theory, intersectionality, white privilege, making its way in math textbooks, science textbooks, social studies textbooks. It has no business there. And if publishers choose to add content like that in their textbooks, they will not be approved and they will not be sold in Florida schools. This is not just about content either, though. Today we're here about fairness. Florida law requires that publishers provide the same lowest price to all school districts in the state. And yet we have seen evidence that some publishers are overcharging certain districts. Every taxpayer dollar matters, and we will not allow publishers to exploit these taxpayer dollars. I in conjunction with the Attorney General and the Governor, will hold every one of these publishers accountable on both content and costs. And if you want to provide these textbooks in Florida, you're going to follow our laws, you're going to respect our parents, and you're going to treat every school district equally. Now, Florida's teachers also deserve better. That's why we're taking the lead here in Florida in creating an English language arts curriculum beginning in the early grades. Thanks to Governor DeSantis and the legislature, this legislative session, we received a $3 million investment to build a high-quality, cost-effective curriculum tailored to our students' unique needs. This is a curriculum that will be developed in Florida for Florida students with a focus on core learning and academic integrity. Teachers will be able to rely on it to deliver essential foundational knowledge, while parents can be confident in their children receiving an education grounded in facts, not in ideology. Florida will continue to lead the nation in education, and we will continue to put students first. We will support parents, and we will hold publishers accountable to the highest standards. As Commissioner, I'm committed to ensuring that every Florida student, regardless of background, receives a high-quality education that is safe, that is rigorous, and is free from political ideology. Working together with the Governor and the Attorney General, we will continue to raise the bar for Florida education. Thank you, and God bless.
Governor DeSantis, Attorney General Uthmeyer, Commissioner Kamoutzis, and our esteemed elected officials and guests, thank you for coming to Osceola County and visiting one of the premier high-performing schools in the state of Florida, Voyager K-8. In Osceola County, we value parental choice and educational freedom. For the past 10 years, Osceola County has elevated choice for parents and families, recognizing that parents ultimately know what's best for their children. In the past 2 years, the school district of Osceola County, including our charter schools, that's right, you have a superintendent that's actually saying, yes, including our charter schools, has experienced a rapid increase in student outcomes. That's because of our collaboration together with all of our educational partners. Just as we have experienced an increase in student enrollment, approaching 80,000 students, I don't think that that's by accident. Because we value choice in this district, we are welcoming folks into a choice-friendly district. We have a saying down here in Osceola County, every day is day one. We commit to the optimism of the first day of school every day and believe in every child's potential and God-given talents, every teacher's dedication to their profession, and standards-based instruction, and every leader's ability to create the fundamental conditions for teaching and learning. Governor, without your leadership, our district wouldn't be experiencing this level of academic success. Our record graduation rates and unparalleled access to accelerated coursework. The progress monitoring assessments have been a game changer. They've allowed teachers to make informed decisions about what just-in-time interventions are necessary for student success. I'm fortunate to work with some incredible leaders in our school district and some phenomenal school board members. According to the Florida Department of Education, we have the second lowest administrative overhead of any school district in Florida. And I think we'll be #1 this year, Commissioner. We have proven that efficiency and success come from expectations and talent, not a particular program or more people. Our school principals and assistant principals and our dynamic leadership team have proven that success comes from a belief that everyone can be 1% better every day. However, Governor, my charge is leading an instructional program that is Florida standards based, using textbook materials aligned to Florida standards. These are essential tools for our teachers and students. But we have publishing companies that are overcharging districts like mine. And because assurances of alignment to Florida standards include, despite assurances to alignment in Florida standards, they will include content that is neither appropriate nor aligned. Why are we receiving essentially the same content as New York or California? We have a robust instructional materials review process at the Department of Education, which is quite honestly the best in the country. Florida is not New York, and Florida is not California. We're focused on delivering standards that don't deviate down pathways that would otherwise violate laws and standards. Our Florida standards are focused on the main thing, teaching students knowledge and skills that help them to become good citizens, employable, and pursue higher education. These billion-dollar publishing companies are making substantial profits off of districts like mine, not by giving us our own Florida materials, but the same materials as other states and just calling them aligned. Moreover, they're making massive profits off of school districts like mine, who have a responsibility to the Osceola County taxpayer to ensure their dollars are used appropriately. We have an agreed upon price that publishers are to abide by when they do business in the state with school districts like Osceola. We have clear documentation that some publishers have violated that agreement and failed to deliver materials at the price they agreed to with that state, but they forgot who they're doing business with. In Florida, you don't get to squeeze out your corporate Christmas bonuses on the backs of our taxpayers or at the mercy of our students. If you play ball in Florida schools, be prepared to play ball with the rule of law. Governor DeSantis, Attorney General Uthmeier, Commissioner Kamoutsas, thank you for standing up for the students, the school districts, and taxpayers in Florida, and for saying to the publishers, not on our watch. Thank you.
All right, so we are on the prowl to recoup this money, and we want our school districts to be made whole. I really appreciate everyone that's been involved in this, and we are going to continue to make sure that the materials that they're trying to sell in Florida not only are sold consistent with the contract for the price, but that the material and the content is aligned with our standards. You know, I'm trying to think, like when I was taking calculus in high school, there was nothing injected but just the equations, like you just did it, right? There wasn't social justice or whatever the people try to push now. It was math, and you did it. And then you did chemistry, and you did it. And to see some of the stuff that they try to pull, look, it's not going to fly here. I mean, our guys are on it. But I think that there was one. I mean, sometimes the social studies, like middle school social studies, like almost, you know, more than half of them probably had egregious issues where they're trying to jam this stuff into the curriculum. And again, we just want straightforward education. So we'll continue to be doing that. And I'm glad everybody is enjoying the school year so far. We were, happy. You know, the kids grow up a little bit. They go to next grade. You know, sometimes you're a little wistful. Oh, they're getting older, but it's also like summer's over and you're back in school. So we were, in my household, we were happy with that. I'm not gonna lie. But I hope everybody is, enjoying the school year. I know people are working really hard. I will just say, because it's that season, we monitor different activity out off the coast of Africa, or whatever these waves, and you had Hurricane Aaron obviously is turning. I don't think it's going to have probably any direct impact on any place in the U.S. Big storm, what have you. There are two waves that we'll see what's out there. So just know we're monitoring. We don't anticipate there to be anything concrete that we'd be able to project probably for another few days. But this is just the time of year, and we're ready. This is something that we obviously put a lot of emphasis on. I would just love to have a couple years where we don't have to deal with one. Wouldn't everyone like that? So we'll say, knock on wood. All right, we got any questions?
Do you have any information about other districts in Central Florida that were overcharged in addition to Osceola?
Yeah, so we can get you that. We're with our stuff, so we'll follow up with you on that.
And also, if the state is successful in the lawsuit, what would happen with the money? Would it go to the general fund, or would it go back to the districts that were?
I think it'd go to the districts, right? Yeah. Yep, to the districts.
Well, after last week, the federal judge struck down the parts of the law on the challenges in schools. What's the state's next step?
Oh yeah, we'll appeal. Well, I think we'll ultimately be vindicated on this. I mean, look, we have taxpayers are funding these schools. We have the right through elected officials to empower parents to have a say in this and to make sure that the materials align with standards. Stasi put out a photo of one of these things. where was that? In Hillsborough County. And it's like, really? Are we really going to keep doing this to where, like, we're here to do math and reading and science. We're not here to inject gender theory and saying people can change it. That's just not appropriate in the schools. And so we obviously have a right to insist on those standards. But, this is not anything, if you look back, they always find some judge to do something at some point, and more often than not, we get it rectified on appeal. So I absolutely anticipate that will be rectified on appeal. And yes, we'll keep pursuing this, and even potentially to the to the U.S. Supreme Court if it does need to do that. I'd also just say, the Attorney General's here, and he's been involved in this. We had a challenge to our the processing and deportation facility that we did at the Dade Collier Airport down in South Florida. Real ticky-tack case, but I think it's pretty clear we're in front of a judge who is not going to give us a fair shake on this. And so, we're already prepared, and I know the Attorney General, they will go immediately and respond if there is any type of adverse ruling there. So this is stuff that's happened from time to time. I think it's unfortunate that you're in a situation where you'll have judges that will do some of this stuff, but we're prepared. We're always prepared. We always go to vindicate the people's rights and the policies of the state. And the beauty of it is, in our system, if there's a policy that's enacted by these guys and it gets my John Hancock and it's in the law, you have an election every couple years where you can elect folks that want to tweak this stuff if there's changes you want to see. It's not for a judge to impose the judge's view under the auspice of judicial. That's really political when they're just trying to override the policies that we've enacted through the normal legislative process. So it's interesting. So I've talked to the president, because he's a Florida voter, and what he means by vote by mail, I think, just in my conversations, is the states like California and Nevada and others where they just send all these ballots out into the ether, basically. They have a voting list which is not accurate and not caught up to speed, and then they dump all these ballots out there. So if you're like renting an apartment in Las Vegas and you register to vote there, they'll mail you a ballot if you don't ask. And then they'll mail you a ballot for the person that rented that apartment before you. And then they'll send you a ballot for the person that rented the apartment before them. And you get these ballots just showing up. And then they do ballot harvesting, where it becomes this total fraud. So I think absolutely that should not be allowed. I think what Florida has is absentee voting, effectively, where you have to request a ballot. The state of Florida and the local they are not authorized to mail anybody a ballot on their own. They can send you for absentee, and obviously, we've got snowbirds, so it's popular to have that option. Clearly, you would need some absentee for military overseas, right? So that's at a minimum, you'd need that. But I think Florida, you have to show ID to get the ballot. You have to show ID when you turn it in to verify it and put that on the thing. So this is all being checked, and there's no ballots that are just out there floating around without that. We also ban ballot harvesting in Florida. So you request a ballot, you get it, you turn it in, you're the spouse or something within reason, but you don't have these political operatives allowed to just get a satchel of votes and then just dump them off. We got rid of the drop boxes. They want to just put these drop boxes in the middle of town in different places, unattended. No, we're not doing that. So we've really, I think, shown how it's done, but the mass mailing of ballots, I think, has been a huge mistake. I don't think that there are adequate safeguards on that when you start talking about the Californias and the Nevadas, and so I think it should be discontinued. And look, I would be fine, voting on election day. Now, a lot of people like having the time to early vote or whatever, and so that's just been built into the Florida system. But the old-fashioned way was fine with me. But definitely, just sending out ballots like that huge potential. And when you pair that with ballot harvesting, you know, it's like, are we trying to determine the will of the people, or are we just trying to determine, you know, who's got the best political operatives to grab these votes and just beg people to give them their ballot? And I think it honestly leads to intimidation, too. You know, if you're in Las Vegas, everyone knows ballots you get mailed out. You know, do you think like the culinary union is just going to let you kind of vote your conscience without trying to? No, they're going to want to see those votes. They're going to want to bring the votes in. So it creates a whole host of things. And I just believe in the secret ballot. You go in, you vote, you do that. Even how Florida's done it with the absentee, no ballot harvesting, no interference, so you're able to do it. Now, what's the authority and the reach? You know, I'd have to look at the federal statutes. I mean, clearly, election administration is primarily a state function. We've taken that very seriously. I mean, heck, the Attorney General can tell you, you know, he was in our administration when we did the election crimes unit, which has actually brought people to justice for violating election law, illegal aliens voting, people voting in multiple jurisdictions, people that have been convicted of homicide and sexual assault, illegally voting, and those folks have actually been brought to justice in Florida. And I think what was happening, in my judgment, was, yeah, you had laws, but it was almost like most prosecutors, the election stuff, we don't want to get involved with that. We just want to focus on this other stuff. Well, now we have a unit in self-government and state government that takes it very seriously. So from an enforcement perspective, the laws against ballot harvesting and Zuckerbucks and all these things, getting rid of the drop, all that stuff that we've done, we've really done it right, I think, in Florida. And so not only California, they send the ballots out. We will have an election. And in the state of Florida, your ballots are counted and the results are produced on election night. That's how it used to be. Those were the expectations. Then it was like, well, some of these states are going to take a couple more days. And then California, they take weeks to be able to count the ballots. So you're running for Congress out there. It's usually the Republican will be winning after the election night, and they've counted, and then they keep counting and keep counting and keep counting for weeks on end, and it takes them 4 to 6 to 8 weeks to be able to produce the results for an election. And I'm just thinking to myself, how is that inspiring confidence in all this stuff? And the changes in the margins usually go one way when they keep counting. You know, they had the mayor race in L.A. a few years ago, and you have the current incumbent. She was not incumbent, but she was running. She was backed by the machine, the unions and all that stuff. You had another Democrat. I think he had maybe been a Republican. He was considered, you know, more centrist, but people knew L.A. needed to be cleaned up, so he had a reform message. He was winning after the election day or the primary day, and then like 2 weeks later she wins by like 10%. And I'm thinking to myself, where did those votes come from? How do you all of a sudden just be able to pull all these votes? So I think what they do in California, I have no confidence in it. I think most people look at that and don't have any confidence in it. And don't tell us it can't be done, because in Florida we've shown it can be done. And we've had problems with elections in the past in the state's history, but we rectified that. And when I came in, we had some hiccups in the 2018 in some of these counties. I took some action, but then we worked with the legislature to do robust election integrity measures. And it works. And people have confidence. And I've not seen, since we've done our reforms, there's never been any election result that I've had any issue. I mean, because the ballot, you know how many ballots have been cast, you see how many have been counted, and you see the result. With California, you don't even know how many votes are outstanding. Like they can, you know, postmark it on election day and it gets there 10 days later. Oh yeah, we'll count that still. I mean, so we showed it can be done. I think our model is the best model for the country. But, you know, I think Congress may be able to do some things to make it so that these states are not able to pull some of the shenanigans they did. But you remember back during COVID, they were trying to get me to cancel some of these elections because I was like, no, we're going to do the same thing. But what happened is they put a lot of money in the CARES Act to really underwrite this whole mail-in ballot situation, and that really exacerbated the problems in the 2020 election like we've never seen before. So people ask me like, Florida, you guys are leading this, how you do it? I was like, as governor of Florida, I get this great cheat code. All I got to do is look to New York, Illinois, California, and then do the opposite.